Hey, you know what really sucks when you're a copywriter? Staring at the almighty blank screen, who is still to this day undefeated, and not knowing exactly what to write when you are literally paid to write. So that's this number one problem that I've seen with copywriters, and I've actually faced myself, and I'm going to be helping you with today in this short video about exactly how to do the step 2 of step 5, outlining, which is part of my 5-step proprietary copywriting formula, which I've outlined for you in a very long video here that you can check out and see the whole 5 steps. But this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to outline your copy so you'll never face the white page again and be defeated again by no ideas, no angle, no hooks, no nothing, when you are literally paid to write the sales message for a great product that you just signed the client up on the phone for. You start your contract, you do your research, and you have nothing to show for it. I will show you exactly how to move past this, and it's a lot easier than you might think, so check it out in this video. So the thing plaguing most copywriters than the new virus or the diseases that you've seen in the past or literally anything ever is the fact that you can't get anything new on the page. I mean, this thing is literally the worst, most annoying and difficult issue that writers face, and it's called writer's block. For one thing, that's for novelists usually, or people who are storytellers and they write biographies or whatever. Copywriters, writer's block is the worst because you're on a deadline, you've got the project budget, the client is actually, hopefully they're not breathing down your neck, but they do have a schedule and they paid you already, ideally. You should be getting paid up front, just a pro tip. Otherwise, they are giving you the money to write words, and then you're sitting down at the computer and you can't write words. So this is probably the most frustrating thing that I've faced in my career with copywriting, and I'm just sitting there staring at something that's nothing's coming out. I have no idea what I'm really gonna start with or how I'm gonna begin the message. And if you've written anything in sales copy, from a letter to an email to even a small ad or a blog or a LinkedIn update for some clients or whatever it is, some content, you know what I'm talking about. So when you're looking at the product that they have, and you've already done step 1, which is the research phase, and you can check that here. It's the full video on the research. We go very deep on the very first step of the 5-step copywriting proprietary formula that I'm giving you from me writing direct response copy, what I'm using in my business. And also you can check the longer video, which is about an hour, which goes through all the 5 steps. But for this one, we're doing number 2 out of 5, which is the outlining process. And outlining will help you actually start writing, because it's so easy to get distracted when you think you have a great idea and then you start following down that rabbit hole and it actually doesn't lead anywhere, and then you get stuck again and then you're back at square one. That's even worse than not starting, in my opinion, because you have an idea and then you try to flesh it out and you just have to scrap it because you recognize it sucks, or it's not founded on anything in the market with your research that you already did. Again, check it in that video. This is what you need to do, okay? I'm telling you straight up, this is what you need to do. Since you have the research, okay, this is the raw data you're gonna be pulling from. So when you are in the middle of so it's 3 steps, right? We got in the first 3 steps of the 5 is the research, and then the outline, then the writing, right? The first is the research, and then the third is the writing. So you're in the middle right here with the outlining. I put this step in here for a reason, and I use this step every time for a reason, because I used to have this problem, but I don't have it anymore. For I would just get stuck and I would get brain fog, or I would just have the writer's block would be killing me and I really want to just throw my computer out the window, right? It doesn't happen to me anymore because the 3 steps, the first ones out of the 5, this middle step out of those is the most important for just beginning, right? This is where you start writing. So after you did all the research, which is basically you're pulling from all the raw data, and like I said before, you have this in your subconscious mind, you have cemented the imagery and the visuals and the ideas that the market is already dealing with. You know their pain, you know their frustration, you know what they're going through in life, you know where they want to go, you know that your bridge is the copy, and the copy bridge is getting them from where they are to where they would like to be in life, and hopefully not dying on the street and stuff in cars. And so the other thing is that you want to actually understand where they're coming from by doing this research first. And since you've done this preliminary research, you are able to start writing in this outlining phase. So this has worked every time for me, because nowadays it's so much more easy to just start this way rather than trying to come up with a great new idea and just begin and start writing the whole message if I'm doing like a long sales letter, right? That doesn't work for me. So why you need the outline piece is because, like I said, the first 3 steps of the 5-step program, the formula, you're linking up the number 2 in the middle, you're linking up number 3 and number 1 to come together. So the writing and the researching. So writing on this side, researching number 1 and 3. Those two link together in the middle to form the outline. And when you do this, you have something to conquer the writer's block by jotting down everything that you want to say or any ideas that you have. And let me give you an example. So when you're starting and you want to craft an outline that's like basically, giving them every piece that they would need logically as they're going through their journey and their struggles and whatever they are, you present the problem first. You give them a solution afterwards. But not only that, you want to actually bridge that gap with the whole cycles that you did. When you tried something, you failed, didn't work, you tried again, you went back and forth, and you want to actually recreate their experience within your story that you're telling them in your sales letter. And so this is super important because the way that you get this done is the first thing that you're actually writing on the page. So you're not gonna go into your whole letter. I mean, you can do it however you like, but when I'm writing an 8,000 word or 4,000 word sales letter or VSL script, like that's a monster of a piece. So I'm gonna craft everything in the outline of the stories. And then when I'm going through the logical story, I already know how a story is told and how to tell a story and how to go through the ups and downs and the upsets and the pieces where they have a little bit of a win, but it's more like beginner's luck, and then they draw back again, and then you find either a guide or a mechanism to get your way through the toughest struggles, right? I already know how to tell that story. I know that formula in my head in a very deep level. So when I'm pulling from the outline, what I'm gonna be doing is pulling data from my actual raw research file, because I've already done the confidential fact sheet that I showed you. Again, you go over this in research video 1, where it's the part of the 5-step series, and I'm showing you exactly how to research your client and your target market and all the things that they're doing and all the products and everything that's great about their unique selling propositions, right? So that piece is very powerful. So when I'm doing this outline, I'm actually pulling from that raw data, and this is what you should do too, because this is the antidote to doing nothing and staring at a page and being very unproductive and frustrated and throwing your laptop out the window. And I don't know if you know, but like laptops tend to be super expensive. So I think it's a good idea if you don't do that, because then they break and then you don't have money. So, and money's good. So like if you want to not do that, and not get frustrated and break your laptop in half, it'd be a great idea to just pull data and just use the research for what it's made for. Because you're doing this step first. This is the main reason why I'm giving you this thing. This is my proprietary writing and research program and formula. This is why I'm telling you this stuff, because this is what I'm doing for my clients. And the research comes first. So you're able to pull a lot of things. So we went over the 4 things in the research phase, right? So you got the product research, you got the avatar, you got your offer building, and you got your messaging. And when you're pulling from those 4 things, it's like a very raw, powerful ammunition that you're building up your offer with, essentially, and you're kind of building your foundational arguments on that raw data. So I would suggest to always go back through that thing and make sure that you are going through the data that you've already collected, because you didn't do all that work for nothing. The data should take you at least a few hours, especially if you're new in the niche. And if you're not new, you should have a good background or a swipe file, or at least the research that's on the base level of that stuff and whatever gets sent from the client in your file, so you can use that and kind of leverage off of that. But if you're brand new in the niche, yeah, it's definitely going to take you a few hours, and this is why you need to be charging what you're worth. All these things work together. So what I would do is craft something that takes them logically and emotionally through the regular story format. And if you don't know, there's a lot of different ways on stories and how to build an argument, how to build an offer, how to build a story. Essentially, first you have a problem where the customer has, a lot of struggle when they're going through this thing, and then they're meeting someone or something or mechanism, something that shows them what they're doing wrong and how to fix it. And then, you get the first initial failures where they try something and they have a little bit of beginner's luck, but then they go back to where they were. They get discouraged, they're even more frustrated than when they started because they did have it work, and then they get another mechanism or another way through, or another pathway, another formula or plan that pulls them through to the other side, and then they start winning again and whatnot. And then they're using the guide or the format or the mechanism that the person or brand or whatever that they are following is giving to them, which is super important. It's a very transitional phase in the story. And it shows them, how to avoid the pitfalls, how to get better, how to be mentored by someone or something who has already done what you do or what you want to do and is very good at it. And then, you know, you can get a lot more success that way. You can avoid the pitfalls, and then it basically everybody lives happily ever after and sings Kumbaya together while holding hands. So that's the story format, basically at a very broad overview. But if you can master that and get in depth with it, obviously I'm not covering every single piece of it, but that is how you tell a story. And if you're able to do that with your offers, then you already kind of know how stories are told. I mean, you can look at any novel, any great show. You look at like the outlines in the pilot, even just one pilot of a good show like Billions or Game of Thrones or any of those, you can see the whole story told in the exact exciting way with all these different characters and formats and like how they intertwine with each other. Like, it's very interesting stuff. And any novel, any book, anything that's like bestseller, like start there. Start at Harry Potter, start at The Lord of the Rings, you know, things like that. If you don't know how to like really break out a story out of nowhere, right? So that's first. You got to tell the story. You got to make them go through this process, and actually you're not forcing anything on them. You're identifying with what they're going through by telling the story of their life, right? You're already in the flow with them because you've been through their stuff, or you've researched enough to know and talked to enough customers and prospects to know what they're going through in life. Super important, right? So that's like the base level. And then overlaying that, you are starting to outline certain things that are on that story level, right? So when you're going through the problem area, you're gonna be like, you know, how does it feel when you're doing this, that, and the other? Like, things aren't working, you know, you're frustrated, and then it leads into other issues and all the emotional things it gets tied up into. You know, isn't it aggravating when you can't do this and you want to do this, blah, 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 blah. Like, you go through that format for every step of the story. And you're doing this with your outlines, and your outlines can turn into subheads if you like. So if you're ready to start jotting down some good copy, you know, just for rough draft, that's a great place to start. If you're not, just put some ideas there and then outline everything. So you have the whole sheet eventually filled with the entire story with an outline for each piece of the actual story, but maybe 4 or 5 or more in each place. So you got like 4 or 5 for the problem, you got like 4 or 5 for the introduction of the hero, you know, or the savior or the guru or whatever it is, or the program or the mechanism, right? The tool that helps you get where you want, the format, the formula, like all these things work. You can choose whatever you'd like to do for whatever market you're in. You have to base it on the research again, because it all goes back to number 1. So that is like giving 4 or 5 different outlines for each piece of the puzzle, of the story, of the journey, right? Everything is on a journey. So that's what I would do, and that's what I do. And so what I'm working on after that is actually crafting those pieces into subheads. So, you know, if you've been writing copy for more than an hour and a half, like, you should know about headlines and subheads. I'll show some examples here, but on some famous ads, essentially the headline is going to be the most important thing that's giving everybody the idea of what your ad is about, or, you know, giving them the idea about what the story is going to be about. And then the subheads are breaking up the text and kind of keeping them enticed, and also giving them benefits and helping them avoid pain points and frustrations all along the journey, right? So if you can master those outline format and the idea of what outlines are really providing and what they're supposed to do, then you will get so much closer to where you're supposed to be when you're telling a story that's argumentative, or it's combative, or it's empathetic, or it's helpful, whatever. Like, whatever you're stirring up in that market, you're going to be pulling it out of them and then leading them down a path where you're going to be closing them on a product. So that's what I do with the subhead. So basically the outline, you know, the outline, which is number 2 of step 5, you know, 5-step formula for my proprietary copywriting, which I'm actually doing in my clients' businesses right now. I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom. The step 2 is the outlining, and what you're going to do as a broad overview is you start outlining the story of what you want to tell and what the market wants to hear and how they are and who they are, and like in identifying with who they are wanting to become, because everybody's buying products and buying services into who they would like to become in the future. They're identifying with their future selves and trying to buy into that. And you're helping them with the stories that you're telling them, and also based on their market vocabulary, their research, the avatar, product, messaging, offer, all the stuff we learned in the first video. Click here again in the card, we got it still up there. That is very important. And then you outline those, you flip those to subheads essentially. And you're able to quickly break down what people need to hear and what people are looking for in your letter, and hoping that you can give them in your storytelling abilities, right? So that's that. You turn each piece into a subhead afterwards, so it's like a piece of compelling copy where it's like, you would turn, for instance, like the outline might say, you know, help get out of debt now. Okay, maybe start doing payment plans on your credit cards, right? Whatever, something like that, right? Your headline, your subhead might be, are you sick of being in debt? Here's 3 easy ways that are going to help you get out of debt even faster than you ever thought before, right? And that's your subhead that you turned into from a pain point. or from an outline point, right? So basically you can do the outline for yourself and then switch it to the front facing, consumer facing market. Because obviously you're not going to be turning into the client your notes like, oh, here's what I think about your idea, here's my final letter. Like, you're going to be giving them an advertisement that's finished and polished, right? But for yourself, you start the outline, then you can later on turn it into subheads for when you're going to write the copy that fills in between the subheads. So this is really on the long form sales letter and the sales VSL letter and webinar scripts, and then PowerPoint presentations for direct response sales letters or sales presentations, and also works for emails too. So just so you know, that's kind of like the format that we're talking here. But yeah, that's what you want to do. So another copy tip here is something that I learned from Joe Schreifer. He's an Agora Financial chief copy, or chief copy head there or something, or copy chief, or I don't exactly know his role, but he's a boss copywriter over there, and they do 9 figures every single year. They do hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. They're always launching new offers in finance markets, and Agora is a big publishing head company, and they have a lot of different things like International Living and magazines and whatnot, and they all do direct response, and they all hire copywriters. Like, it's basically the copywriter's dream to work over there, basically, right? I think it's in Baltimore or Boston, I forget exactly, but basically he came out with this one thing that my mentor gifted to me, that is the copyboarding format, and it's the formula for basically crafting what I'm saying here, but in an in-depth way, and a step-by-step formula for turning your ideas and the outlines into the subheads. So this is where I got the idea from, but he also goes through that in much more depth, and I'll throw it up on the screen here for to scroll through. But that'll help you actually see what's going on here with this 5-step copyboarding program. You can pause the video and check it out and see if you want to use that. But essentially what you're going to do is you are going to craft the post-it notes based on the outline of the story. Then you're going to move a level deeper with your avatar's market, the market psychology, and you're going to be thinking about what they are dealing with in their life, and you're going to be putting each one of those struggles on a different post-it note, and then you're going to rearrange it in a logical way that they would probably come up with, in terms of they're going to ask you who you are and what you're doing, and if we should trust you, and if this is worth the money, right before they start talking about the story that you had, that you're telling them that you went through and then you conquered it, and now you're selling them the solution or whatever. They're going to want to have those logically in the right order. So what he's saying is you do that, and then you put those in the right order, and then you switch those. You do another column for the subheads. So you got one column of the post-it notes, and that's the actual objections of the market and what they're going to be asking you during your letter, the roadblocks that you're going to be coming up with, the locks that you need to put a key in to get them to the next level, so they trust you and they know that you know what you're talking about. The other line, the column, is going to be your subheads that you make out of those outline ideas and those objections that they're having in the market in the logical way. So again, you turn an objection or an outline into a subhead of copy that you can actually edit, and then that would be part of your final letter. So this is a brilliant program, it's a very, very quickly adaptable program or formula that you can use as well. It's kind of another ninja tip that I use sometimes. There's so many formulas and so many swipe files and background information that you can get, and that every copywriter really should have. So you don't have to use this one, to be honest. I don't use this every time, but I definitely do use it quite often. I remember certain VSLs that I used it on because it's so long. I want to grasp all the information and put it down. And after you do the subheads, basically, so you will want to be filling in the copy because you're going to need to complete the letter. So essentially what he talks about is the CPPPB, and it's a claim format where you do a claim and then 3 proofs, 3 pieces of proof, and then you add it up with the benefit. So your claim might be, lose 60 pounds over the next year. That'd be a pretty heavy claim, but if you could back it up with 3 strong pieces of proof, look at John. He's shed 20 pounds in his first 3 months, and he's still healthy and happy, and he's building muscle and losing fat super quickly. And if you don't believe that, you can check out Pamela's story. And Pamela, she came up with us for only a month and a half, and she was able to shed 20 pounds doing only treadmill work and nothing else more rigorous than walking a few miles a day. Something like that. And then you do a third one with Tim's story or whatever, right? And then benefit for you is that we've systemized the program. We're going to give you a super easy format to follow, and all you have to really do is sign up here for our monthly $47 a month program, and that's going to get you into the exact way and the mind frames and the activities and the diets and everything that these 3 people did, and then you move on to your next subhead. So you just did CPPPB, where you do a claim, 3 proofs, and a benefit. And this is just ingenious. It's for a newbie copywriter, it's so great. So again, I've showed you that on the screen already, and you should be able to take this and run with it. If you don't know what you're doing yet, or if you don't know how to like basically just stare at a screen and like start crafting magic from nothing, then the outlining on my second step of the 5-step formula will very be relevant to you as well, because you need to start here before you just jump in and try to start writing everything, because you get so disorganized, confused, and then you want to give up, and like I said, you want to punch a hole through your computer, and that's not good because your fingers are full of glass, and you're also broke because you just broke your #1 source of income, which is your box in 2020. And those things are expensive to replace, so I would advise against doing that, you know, like I said before. So don't break your computer, don't get angry with people, and don't kick your dog, because that's not chill either. So if you use this outlining formula, it's going to be so much easier for you. I'm telling you, I've done this so much time, for so much time, like so many years, and for so many thousands and thousands of words and dozens of letters and emails and ads and all this stuff for clients and for myself and for a lot of things for e-commerce when I used to do that. So there's so many different things that you need to be, you know, practicing and modeling off of, and really just implementing. And when you do it, I promise you'll be so much more happy, so much more efficient, and it's so much easier to write a letter because the copy almost writes itself. Like I'm telling you, if you have great research that's solid and foundational, and you have an outline with all the storytelling and the subheads and the objections that you are conquering with your copy, the middle of it and the story format just flows and it builds itself, and it's so much better. It's so much better. I mean, like 100 times better. Like it's so much more quick and easy. So that's what I got for you today. This is number 2 of the 5-step copy formula for proprietary to my business that I'm running right now with the direct response copy clients that I'm using, or I'm writing for, and that they are using for me for my copy. And if you want to check out the entire video, I got a whole long video about all of these 5 steps that cover the whole thing. It's not going to be the same content just like this video with all the 5 separate videos just mashed up into one. It's very unique and different, and it takes a long time to give you the whole outline. But if you want to take notes on that, you're going to learn a lot. Your copy skills are going to get drastically upgraded in a very short amount of time. You can take my learning curve and just cut it. You know, like you really just take all the lessons that I'm teaching you and cut 6 months or a year off of your curve, and it's unnecessarily to just, you know, put all that time into yourself if you're not getting any better. So that's up there. And if you want to check out number 1, if you haven't checked out the first research video, and then of course I got the other ones that are going to link to each other. We've got 3, 4, 5 coming up, so stay tuned for that. That's going to be very exciting. And yeah, that's what I got for you. So all I would ask for you to do is like this. If you love this content and you want more of this content, then the way to do it is to like it and to support this brand, and then you upvote it and you subscribe, and this brand gets circulated around the interwebs, and you can share it with your dolphin or your pet cat or your lizard or your mom or your uncle or your uncle's mom. Like, I don't care. Just show people who love copy and spread it around the interwebs, and that helps me, it helps you. As soon as this brand keeps growing and whatnot, like I'll be able to put more time into it and giving you a lot more value on the consistent end. And I got a lot of content coming up as well. So that's the one thing that you could do, literally, is just like and subscribe. Hit the bell as well if you want, because you'll get notified by the new videos, and that'll help you learn a lot more about copy in a very quick way. And then more people will come onto the brand. I'll have more time to allocate to it. And yeah, so enjoy. Thank you for watching, and try to do this. What I'm talking about here, you will not regret it. Like, you will get so much better at copy, so much easier from your flow. And that's what I got for you. So Evan from Motive Emotion, signing off. Peace.